This is Robert Kraft, and I'm your host on SNN Network. And joining me right now is Quentin Martin. He is the CEO of Real Luck Group. It's a publicly traded company. The symbols are LUCK on the TSX Venture and LUKEF on the OTCQB. And Quentin will actually be doing a presentation on Real Luck Group at our upcoming virtual event, the Planet MicroCap Showcase Virtual, happening April 20 through 22. Be sure to register for the event to go and check that out. With that, Quentin, you made it through the intro. What's going on? How you doing?
Hi, very well, thank you. It's a sunny day here in the Isle of Man, so it's a good start.
I gotta admit, I told you this offline. I didn't know anything about the Isle of Man before I heard that you were based there, and now it makes total sense after doing some research as to why Real Luck Group is based there. So let's tell the audience why it makes total sense. You know, to start off, let's get a quick overview and history of the company, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So the Isle of Man is between the UK and Ireland. It's a small island, and it has a very good gambling licensing regime and tax regime. So we pay 0% corporate tax, and the gambling license here allows us to operate in maybe 2/3 of the world's eligible gambling companies. So it's about it's about 80 countries around the world, and it's where the headquarters of many of the gambling, multi-billion-dollar gambling giants is based, because of the same reason. Over the last 15 years, almost all of them have been based here at one point or the other.
Very good. Okay, so and then for those who aren't familiar with the Real Luck story yet, real briefly, what does the company do?
Sure thing. So we're a fully licensed esports betting platform. Esports being professional computer game tournaments, and betting on them in almost exactly the same way as you would on any sport: tennis, football, soccer, whatever it is. You want your favorite team to win, or you think you've got a bit of an edge, you go online, you place a bet, we facilitate that. And we also offer betting on over 100 traditional sports, basically any sport that you can think of. And we'll be adding casino later on in the year to really complete that suite for our esports brand.
Surfing yet? I mean, can we do betting on surfing? I mean, come on, man. Let's.
You know what? You're testing my limits, but there are some really wacky stuff in there. So there are sports that I've never heard of in there. I'm making no guarantee. Surfing is one of them. I love to surf, but there are some weird stuff in there. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And the company is doing business as it's under Luckbox, right? So that's the brand that people can go and look up.
Yeah, Luckbox.com is the customer-facing brand.
Very good. So how did we get here? Tell us a little history.
Sure. So I guess I'll talk about my background, and it really makes sense to get this. So I started life out as a professional gamer, playing, in my teenager, any computer game that I could for money. If you've heard of the geeky game Magic the Gathering, I was UK #1 for 8 years, Canadian #1 when I lived over there. And then I went on to be a professional poker player before being headhunted to work for PokerStars, the world's largest casino poker company, which then got acquired recently for $20 billion by Flutter to create the world's largest gambling brand. So I was there for about a decade, ended up being, what was my final title, general manager of their free-to-play gaming studio. And really when the two founders of Luckbox, who were friends of mine from the early PokerStars days, got in touch and said, hey, we need leadership, and we're doing a fusion of the gaming and the gambling space, and we want to take the kind of ethical background that we learned at PokerStars about doing the right thing, being well licensed, to this kind of Wild West, new upcoming hyper growth. It's growing at 44% year on year for the next 5 years space. It was too good to be true. Both my passions coming together. So we started about 3 years ago, and now, as I said, we're live in about 80 countries. We've just closed an $18 million raise last month. Enjoying being public and really kind of starting to execute throughout the year.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I think we could do a whole hour just talking about your background, because listen, I never played Magic Gathering, so I'd love to hear how you became #1 in not one, but 2 countries, but we'll save that for our long form. But, so as you said, I mean, this is an industry it's for lack of a better term, if you've been living under a rock, it's exploding right now. You can listen on any podcast, your FanDuel, all this stuff. So what would you say makes the company unique and different compared to some of the other platforms out there? And then who would you also say is some of your closest comps, in your peer group?
Sure. So we really want to be the home of esports betting. So when we came to market, our primary goal is to make sure that whatever the esports match, we would be able to offer it betting wise. So and when we launched, we had maybe twice as many betting opportunities as any of the larger players out there, whether they were Bit3, Bet365, DraftKings, FanDuel, William Hill, etc., and maybe 4 times as many markets within those games. We also wanted to make sure that you could stream, so you could watch and chat in real time the live matches on our site. And we had almost about, I think it's 95% live streams on both mobile and desktop. So this was really a key in separating ourselves from the major players in the space. I think our key competition would probably be a company called Rivalry and a company called Unicorn. All 3 of us operate a pretty similar space, an endemic esports betting product that's focused on the same user base with a solid license. And we're all going after slightly different geographies in the world and a slightly different life cycle. So luckily the space, over $18 billion is being bet every year. It's big enough for a few players at the moment. So, I'm really happy if they succeed, it's good for the space. So yes, they're competitors, but I like to actually think of them more as, is friends a cliche? I don't know, but it's a really exciting space to be in.
No, you play friendly in the sandbox. Yeah. There you go. That works. So this is going to be kind of a weird question to ask, but how do you win in essence? Like what I feel like, and this could be my own naive take, but the tech is there, right, to do esports betting and whatnot. It's fairly simple in that sense. Not simple. I'm not a tech guy, so it's not simple. I know that, but enable to get more people on your platform and either take them away from other platforms or introducing them to your platform. What does it take to get that critical mass, so to speak?
Sure. Elements of the marketing mix and brand position, to be honest. So the gambling company, the traditional gambling industry has been struggling to acquire Gen X and Gen Z, or 18 to 40-year-olds for several years. And esports is the #1 channel. My favorite stat is that 18 to 25-year-olds like to watch more computer games than they do traditional sports. So this is like the tipping point stat. And if you take that forward and extrapolate it 50 years into the future, there'll be 75 watching and playing computer games against each other in retirement homes. So what we're seeing is that esports will become the #1 acquisition channel, the largest funnel into the gambling space. So that's where we're poised right now. And by focusing on that younger demographic through content marketing, influencer marketing, affiliate marketing, etc., we can build the brand that either we can become hugely successful off our own backs, or build a brand and a user base that becomes absolutely attractive to these $50 billion plus gambling companies that are struggling to acquire in that space, which is something that we do as our specialty.
I mean, do you need massive amounts of marketing spend in order to capture all that, or like how do you do it so that you don't necessarily have to have those huge marketing budgets?
Correct. And we don't plan on, we can't compete on marketing budgets with these big players. So what we compete with is a better product that's dedicated to this user base, and by leveraging kind of more agile user acquisition channels such as influencers, such as working within the community by being authentic and getting brand ambassadors out there. And so, it's really a matter of, and we, creating content that is, worth sharing and circulating on social media to really reach the younger gambling audience, even though our average bettor is 32. So that like zeitgeist that computer games is for kids is really a thing of the past. But really, it's just a matter of making sure we can acquire, retain, and monetize the young gambler that the rest of the industry is struggling to do.
So then, from what you can tell us, what would you say then are some of the company's main value catalysts moving forward? Of course, what you can tell us, of course.
Of course. Let's think. So one of the big milestones later on in the year will be adding casino. The traditional gambling industry model is to acquire users through low cost per acquisition channels such as poker or sports or esports, and then cross-sell them primarily to casino, which has a much higher average revenue per user. So we're going to emulate that model when we bring it along later in the year. We've just brought on Thomas Rosander as our Chief Customer Officer. He's an absolute heavyweight in the space, former CEO of Dunder, which is a challenger casino brand that exited for, I don't know, 80, 90 million. And he's kind of tasked really with executing on scaling our user acquisition and organic growth. And finally, I'll be working pretty heavily to put our, albeit small compared to non-microcaps, war chest to use through building an M&A roadmap, hoping to bring on either players in the esports data space or in the esports odds space to really build the #1 esports betting company globally.
Very good. Well, Quentin, with that, where can our audience go and find more information about Real Luck Group and Luckbox?
So you can either contact us at investment@luckbox.com or go to our website, luckbox.com, or our group site, realluckgroup.com.
Very good. Well, Quentin, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Good luck. Stay safe. And I look forward to our next update.
Thanks very much, Robert.